You know, Jesus had a number of conflicts in the Gospels, and he never had conflicts with sinners. He never had conflicts with people who were down on their luck. He wasn't a nagger or a scolder. He didn't say to lepers, well, if you'd lived a clean life, you wouldn't have this disease. He didn't say to tax collectors, well, if you weren't such a sleaze, you wouldn't feel so bad about yourself. He didn't say to hungry people, well, if you'd worked hard enough, you'd have food on your table. He didn't say to women of ill repute, well, you got the reputation you deserve. Jesus ate with people who were down on their luck, and he kept company with people who would be considered losers. But he did have conflicts. He had conflicts with religious leaders. He had quite a number of them. Now, I want to be really clear about something before I go further. I'm going to talk about one conflict in particular and one of the perils of frankly, being a religious person. But at any rate, let's be really clear about something. Jesus was not condemning Judaism by having conflicts with religious leaders of the day. Jesus was Jewish, they were Jewish. This was Jewish people arguing about Judaism. If you haven't noticed, Christians do the same thing today. We've argued about all sorts of things. Believe it or not, we've had schisms over whether or not to have candles on an altar. That is for another day. But at any rate, Jesus was not condemning his own faith. Jesus was digging deep into his own faith, into his Judaism, and seeking God above all things in the tradition into which he was born and in which he was raised and to which he had devoted his life. So, let's look at this one conflict. Jesus rides into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey in triumph. It's a big deal. Gets everybody's attention. And it's not long after that he strolls into the temple and he clears it. He tells people that they're making a mockery of his Father's house. And of course that steams the religious leaders of the day. And they react, at least some of them, not all of them. Remember, some of them followed Jesus. Some of them were just puzzled by him. And then others were enraged by him. Well, this group, I guess, was enraged. And they asked bluntly, by what authority do you do things like this? And Jesus responded with a question. Well, tell me about John the Baptist's authority. Was that a divine authority? Did God send him here? Or was that just some human agenda where he was grabbing for power? You see, John had already been beheaded. And these religious leaders had not been open supporters of John the Baptist. You might imagine that set them back on their heels. They gathered in a little huddle and they said, oh man, what are we going to tell this guy? I mean, after all, if we say that God sent John the Baptist to preach these hard things, then Jesus is going to say to us, well, then why didn't you listen to him? Why didn't you follow him? And then if we say, no, that was some human power play, then all of these people here who've been listening to Jesus, who had been really listening to John the Baptist and growing spiritually through his teachings, they're going to have our hides. And so they evaded the question. They said, well, we really can't say. And Jesus said, yeah, you're telling me something about yourself here. You're playing power with me. You're really not asking me deeply spiritual questions because you wonder. You're not asking about the world we all live in. Where is God in that? You're playing political games with me. And I want to take a look just very briefly at a danger that you and I have because we are political animals, we human beings. All of us are. And that's not a bad thing. Do you know, Aristotle, by the way, said that humans are political animals. We live in society together. We live together. We're meant to be creatures living in society. That's how God made us. And politics, in their healthy expression, they deal with justice. They do. To live together, we have to discern together in a way that is godly. Well, what's the best way to live as a community? How do we live in a beloved community, a loving community? One very brief look around the United States today tells us we're really struggling with that. We struggle with race relations in a way that is absolutely heartrending. We struggle with the distribution of wealth. We struggle with making employment possible for enough people and making healthcare available and affordable for enough people. That's all political, you see. And it's our responsibility to figure that out. It's our responsibility to figure out how all of us can eat and how all of us can be treated for diseases and how all of us can seek and find gainful employment and live in security from all manner of threat to our bodies, minds, and souls. That's healthy politics. We're gonna do that. That's what it means to be a political animal that God made us to be. However, there's a narrower sense of political. That is, where we have a human agenda and we want to exercise our power at the expense of somebody else. We want to elevate our own status so that we can be more comfortable, even if it makes somebody else less comfortable. And Jesus saw that religion actually can be a means for doing that. Religion can be used to gain power, to exercise power, to gain status, even to accumulate property. We can follow Jesus not because we love Jesus and seek to grow closer to God and to be the instrument of love on this planet. We can espouse Jesus to get ahead or to just feel self-righteous. You know, nobody's perfect, and I'm going to just tell you the church is certainly not perfect. And we're an institution. By the way, it's not just because I have a purple shirt on that I'm a part of an institution. If you go to church, if you've been baptized, you're part of an institution. The body and the institution are not the exact same thing, but it's pretty much impossible to just totally separate them out. There are plenty of people who have mistrust of the institution, and I totally get it. That's the I'm spiritual but not religious crowd, and I got a lot of sympathy for that. I get it. Institutions do let you down. The church lets you down. It does. It does. It's because, well, we're human. We are inhabited by God, but, well, we remain human. But we also run the risk of becoming human all too human and allowing ourselves to be religious in a way that's phony, where it becomes a way of exercising power and putting some people down and getting our way because we just want our way, not because we're humble enough to listen to what the Spirit might be doing in our midst. That's what Jesus was teaching us in this particular conflict with that group of religious leaders. He had the sneaking suspicion that basically they were protecting their turf. They were protecting their prerogatives. They were really about keeping Jesus from undermining the comfortable place they had for themselves in their society. You know, folks, I'm not saying I'm better than that. And I'm not saying that you're better than that. That's a potential for all of us. And as best as I can tell, what Jesus teaches us as a kind of key for how you doing, it's sort of our way to take our temperature, is this: do we always come to our fellow Christians, our Jewish neighbors, or our Muslim neighbors, or our atheist neighbors, with honest curiosity about their lives, with the expectation that we will find God in them, maybe even where they don't expect to find it in themselves, and that we see in them something that is lovable? We see in them the face of Christ.